Before the 2026 F1 season, Lando Norris needs to pay €1 million to be allowed on the grid. This isn't a fine, it isn't a contract bonus, but it's the price of his FIA super license in order to race in 2026. But here's the catch: the better you are in F1, the more expensive it is to have a super license. Today, we are breaking down how the super license system works, why Lando Norris tops the list for the 2026 season, and why the gap between the top and the bottom drivers has never been wider. So, what is a super license? In order to race in Formula One, you need a super license. It's the equivalent of having a driver's license out on the road. So for F1 drivers, this is a little bit more expensive than having a normal driver's license. For junior drivers that aspire to get to Formula One, they need to earn points in order to get their super license. The way to do this is by racing in junior categories that are registered by the FIA. For example, F2, F3, Super Formula, and even IndyCar. But what we have seen in recent times with the super license points is there's a discrepancy when it comes to an IndyCar category and a Formula 2 category. You actually earn more points being in F2 than being in IndyCar. So we have seen Colton Herta racing at the peak in American motorsports in IndyCar, but then he has to come to Formula 2 in order to try get to Formula 1 by earning enough super license points. But once you're in Formula 1, you need to pay an annual cost in order to keep up your super license. And your super license gets more expensive depending on how many championship points you scored in the previous season. So, the better you are, the more expensive it becomes. In Formula One, success is literally expensive. No matter where you go, that cost, it hurts. For the 2026 F1 season, the FIA super license cost is made up of two parts: a base fee that comes to the total of €11,842. Then the second cost, and this is where it gets expensive, plus €2,392 for every championship point you scored in the 2025 Formula One season. So if you're Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, or Oscar Piastri, these numbers are about to hurt your hip pocket. Now, let's take a look at what this means for the top of the grid. No surprise, your 2025 F1 World Champion, Lando Norris, tops this. With 423 points scored last season, his base fee for the FIA Super License in 2026, $1,235,507. That just hurts. And for conversion's sake, I'll convert it to Australian dollars because that's where I'm located. That is $1.8 million. That's a huge amount for your world champion. Now, in second place is Max Verstappen, only 2 points behind with 421 points. So, for your four-time F1 world champion, Verstappen needs to pay €1,018,724 to race in 2026. Then, in third place is Oscar Piastri, the Australian. He scored 410 points in the 2025 F1 season. So Piastri is a little bit lucky. He doesn't have to quite pay €1 million, but this fee still stings. For Piastri, his bill is €992,416 to race in 2026. That means your top three drivers have to pay in around or over €1 million before they've even raced a lap in the 2026 F1 season. Let's take a look at the rest. The biggest bill after the top three is George the Russell Muscle. He has to pay €774,776. Honestly, this is the biggest tongue twister. The next on the list is Charles Leclerc. For Charles Leclerc, the only good thing about not winning a Grand Prix in 2025, he doesn't need to pay as much in 2026. His bill is €590,620. Then we arguably come to the GOAT, the seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. And yes, 2025 was not the season that Lewis Hamilton or the Scuderia had hoped for. But because of this, his fee is a little bit less than previous seasons. His fee for the 2026 season is €384,939. And finally, for this part of the list is Kimi Antonelli. For Antonelli, the rookie from last season, he only has to pay $370,589. Then, as you look further back down the grid, this is where you find both the Williams drivers, and their fee is only separated by about €25,000. I'm saying these numbers just like it's off the cuff, like I could barely earn this. Albon's bill is $186,432 for the Williams tyre driver. For Carlos Sainz, this is where those 2 podiums in Azerbaijan and in Qatar start to hurt his hip pocket. His fee is €164,907. Then, the rookie of all the rookies. It's Fernando Alonso, the wily old fox. He has to pay $145,774 to race in the 2026 season. But what this list goes to show is the comparison between winning the World Championship, winning Grand Prix, and then being a solid points finisher. It shows that the gap is growing even wider, with Norris having to pay over €1 million and Alonso only having to pay €145,000. Those stats are just nuts, to be honest. This is where things get interesting. Drivers who didn't score a point in the 2025 season, so Franco Colapinto and Jack Doohan, or drivers that weren't on the grid and are joining the grid for the 2026 season, Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez, they only need to pay a base fee. So their fee is €11,482. So for the likes of Bottas and Perez, this is definitely the cheapest super license they have had to pay for in years. For the likes of Franco Colapinto, I guess not scoring a point for 18 races, there's one benefit, not paying as much as other drivers. Compared to Lando Norris, they get off pretty scot-free. But when you think about it, Bottas and Perez have been off the grid for just 1 year, and they were both in front-running cars, which meant their super license fee was a lot more than previous seasons. Now, they're the equivalent of rookies, coming back on the grid and just paying a base fee. Life's pretty good for those two. So when you take into account all of the super license fees for 2026, the total fee of all the drivers is €5 million that goes towards the FIA. Then the next question you probably ask, well, what does the FIA actually do with all this money? And to be honest, it's a pretty fair question. Where does €5 million from drivers actually go towards? And the FIA will tell you that these funds will go towards motorsport initiatives, in particular at grassroots level, to really make sure that drivers don't have to pay as much as what they do. The other part to this is safety initiatives that they're bringing across the whole of the motorsport category, not just Formula One, but motorsport in general. The FIA also says the development pathways to bring you into Formula One, which does bring up an interesting point. The FIA announced just last year a prize pool. So when you graduate from Formula 3 to Formula 2, if you're in the top 5 of that championship, the FIA will give you a certain amount of money to race in Formula 2. But you only get this prize pool if you go into Formula 2 and not into another motorsport category. So, to summarise the FIA super license, Lando Norris needing to pay €1 million isn't a punishment, but it confirms what many of us already know. Lando Norris is an elite driver and he's having to pay an elite cost to the FIA. But what this does is it highlights a very strange truth when it comes to modern F1. The better you are, the more you have to pay. I'm curious, do you agree with this, or do you think it's not quite right? And in 2026, success in Formula One has never become more expensive. Bloody inflation, honestly. So, I'll leave you with a question. Do you think the FIA should cap the super license fee, or is this the price you have to pay for being that great in your sport? Let me know the thoughts in the comments. If you're not already, please subscribe to the Sports Playbook YouTube channel. We are your go-to when it comes to athlete stories, sports news, and plenty more sports breakdowns. See you next time.